Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Box. I'm your host, Emma. And if you're listening, you're likely a parent, a caretaker, a teacher, or even a manager or recruiter, curious about how neurodivergent learners and gifted children can thrive academically, socially, and in the world of work. Today, I'm thrilled to be speaking with Georgina 𝐷𝐻𝐷, a global talent executive, a woman who has led teams in tech and HR, and a tuned mom navigating the complex world of ADHD and giftedness with her son. Georgina's story is unique. She started as a creative child running a flea circus at the age of 7. And now she's a leading global talent strategist while ensuring her son, who was once misunderstood in traditional schools, thrives in a learning environment tailored for his giftedness. In this episode, you will hear her insights on neurodiversity, parenting ADHD, the complexity of intelligence, advocating for the right education, and translating creativity and resilience into leadership. You live inspired with practical tools and a new perspective on preparing learners for their future. Thank you. Georgina, I'm curious how that creativity, when you were 7 years old, shaped your professional journey and your leadership style. Can you share with us?
Sure, absolutely. I think, it goes back and it's a lesson I'm learning again with my own child. I think to the way I was raised. I've adopted a little boy and I too was adopted. So for me, it was about completing a circle. But the way I was raised, I was extremely fortunate to have parents who there were no intellectual boundaries. So I wasn't raised in an environment of no. I was raised in an environment of, well, how do you think you can make that happen? And so I was allowed to explore at a young age, lots of hobbies, lots of sports. I remember my parents asking me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I promptly arrived in grade 1 and told my class and the nun who was teaching us that I would be the president one day.
Wow,
and
amazing.
Yeah, I believe this because it's led to some interesting little anecdotes. As a 3-year-old, I jumped off the roof of a popular hotel in Umhlanga Rocks because literally I believed I could fly.
Wow.
Of course I couldn't. Shoot. In my being, I still think I can. I've kind of got my head around the fact that not in my current physical form. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
But it was that belief in I could do whatever I wanted to do, that I think has led me down quite a creative path in my own life. And it's obviously affecting how I parent my own child.
It's such a powerful story. How you believed you are going to be a president one day. How you believed you could fly.
I think I've changed my mind about that particular goal objective.
Yeah. But
No.
it's powerful because you dreamed much bigger, much higher. And some people say punching above your weight, but that's what we want.
And I think it all goes back to my parents.
Yeah.
Not restricting me, not limiting me, not telling me, no, you're a girl, you can't be an astronaut or whatever you want. There were no limitations. And I think it's such a valuable lesson in parenting and in allowing our minds just to be free without. So I try now and not parent from a place of no. My child wants to be an NBA basketball player. I buy into that dream of his. We talk about it every day, whether he'll end up in the NBA. I mean, someone's got to end up there, so why can't it be him? But it's really about coming from a place of yes rather than coming from a place of no. And I think that's probably lacking a lot in South Africa.
Indeed.
Some of the gender stereotypes we have. The girls are told, no, you can't be that.
Yeah.
You're a girl. I think it's probably a good lesson that I was able to reflect on how my own parents raised me.
So I like how you bring it back to parenting. That, it starts with the parent. Moving on, I'm just curious whether you see any connection between your childhood creativity and problem solving approach and how you're making decisions as an adult.
as I say again, I mean, even as a leader, I think I try and come at things from a place of yes, rather than from a place of no. So I'm extremely fortunate. That's the way I've been wired now. The epigenetic factors in my life have wired me in such a way that when an obstacle comes up, it might seem insurmountable at the time. I'm very lucky. I'm one of those people who needs one good night's sleep before I move into action. I'm very much an action person. So one good night's sleep and I've kind of let it mull over in my brain, usually come up with good ideas in the shower the next morning. And you know what, sometimes the ideas work and sometimes they don't. You know, they don't, not everything works out, of course.
They don't all have to work.
100%. I mean, as long as I think, you know, you can fail forward. So, you know, I think that element of creativity is always about moving forward, and open to the possibility.
Our next question, Georgina, we're looking at the parent at home who would like to start fostering unconventional way of thinking in their child. What would you say to that parent?
You know, I mean, I think it's difficult to give a blanket answer because I think your child will give you the cues. So, I mean, some children are very interested in mathematical type problem solving, patterns, shapes. Other children are very interested in expressing their creativity, maybe through dance. I would say to any parent, don't be restricted by gender. If your little boy wants to go and learn dance, let him learn dance. I mean, who's to say that dance is for girls? You know, let's try and break the stereotypes we may ourselves have been raised with, and allow our children to explore creatively. Our children are naturally curious and creative, and as parents, we want to stimulate and find the things that they're good at and allow them to excel at that.
Looking beyond the box.
100%. Funny you should say that. So I think you'll be guided by your child. I know personally, my child didn't really like puzzles. So I never pushed puzzles. And I know puzzles are one of the formative learning stages that, you know, teachers look for. Can your child do a 20-piece puzzle? My child didn't enjoy puzzles. What my child was very good at was shapes and patterns. It's one of his superpowers. And so I found an age-appropriate app on an iPad, which had moving shapes of different sizes and shapes and colors. And as he moved up in the ranking of this game, he had to place shapes and of different size colors in a moving object all the time. And I realized very early, this child, I mean, surely children of this age can't do this. And he was racing through it. But to make him sit down and do a puzzle, not his thing. So I think for parents, you know, spend the time with your children to see what they really enjoy, and then stimulate that. And you know, my child's he is a very good reader now. Wasn't that into reading, but he was quite into drawing. So
it required a lot of being attuned.
100% being attuned, and research. Look at what other people are doing. Don't necessarily, and I mean really no disrespect to the formal school curriculum, but follow your child's lead. That's what I'd say.
Interesting. So you have led very successful teams globally as a leader, and I'm curious whether how you went about to spot but also nurture a creative potential in some of the team members that you've worked with.
I think, I mean, I've worked over the years with quite a few neurodiverse people as well. And there's no doubt, I believe that neurodiversity is a superpower. I mean, I'm sad not to have the superpower myself, but it is a superpower if harnessed correctly. I think along with that comes creativity. I have, as I've matured as a leader, been able to better provide structure in an environment that doesn't stifle creativity. Okay, so to allowing people to come up with ideas. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And as a young leader, you kind of feel like you do. You need to be the smartest person in the room. You need to have all the answers. But as you evolve and as you grow, you realize that your strength is drawing those answers from others, actually. Absolutely. And being able to harness their creativity and their strengths into one cohesive strategy. That really is powerful. But as a young leader, I felt like I had to know the answer and I had to lead the strategy. I don't feel like that anymore. And I think that comes with experience. It comes with bashing your head, particularly when you lead people who are older and more experienced than you. I think probably about 15 years ago, I was quite fortunate to look after as the MD of a business in a listed company, and I led people who were significantly older and more experienced than me, and being able to breathe out and learn from them, to being able to not have to be the one who had the answer, but to turn to the greybeards in the room and say, well, what do you think? And not feel less because I didn't maybe know.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the success of most leaders. That's where it emanates from, being able to latch on to the strengths that exist, whether age, neurodiversity, or otherwise. And you have done it quite well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, as I say, it's something you learn. It's something you learn from two sides. You learn by being led by people who ask you, what do you think? And allow for creativity. And again, in a previous role, I was very fortunate to be given the opportunity to be exceptionally creative in the job and to be supported by the CFO, who then funded my creative ideas for the business, obviously. And understanding how that made me feel. It was fantastic. And then growing to a point where I realized, actually, pass that on. So yes, I do think, and I always think it's quite patronizing when people at a certain stage in their career say, now when you're older. I always used to find that people used to say that to me, and I used to feel a bit patronized, or don't you think I know? The truth is, wisdom does come with experience, and experience generally comes with age, generally. So yeah,
it's a fact.
It is a fact.
Absolutely. Now we're going to move on to the genius that you have, and the reason why we're actually here. Your lovely son, Riley. And I can see the spark in your face, or in your eyes when his name come up. When did you first find out that he has ADHD?
Yeah, so it's been a journey. So when I adopted him and he was about 6 months old, I could tell quite early on, certainly by 12 months, that he seemed very bright. But I thought, well, every mother thinks their little Lulu is very bright. Everyone thinks they're the cutest, the brightest. So I kind of asked friends for some input. I mean, do you think he should be doing the stuff that he's doing? I mean, it seems to me that, wow, I don't know any other 1-year-olds who could do this. By 18 months, I thought, I can't leave him at home while I was working. I'm a single mom, so I was out working. And I applied for him to go to a well-known private school. And so he joined it in grade quadruple naught as an 18-month-old. Because I wanted stimulation for him. By sort of age 2.5, they were saying to me, Georgina, he's a little bit disruptive. He is very strong-willed. I was thrilled. I mean, I'm quite strong-willed. So I was thrilled that I had a strong-willed child who had his own mind. I was advised by various professionals that he had a bit of oppositional defiance. Of course, I lived with him, so I was very well aware of his oppositional defiance. But again, he was going to do something when he wanted to do it in the way he wanted to do it, so I didn't want to break his spirit. By 3, they were telling me at the school, listen, I think you need to get him tested. And I was absolutely anti getting him tested. I was, for goodness sake, people, he's 3 years old. I mean, this what testing for what? I felt like it was, the way I interpreted it was there's something wrong with your child.
Oh,
And I was not open to hearing there was anything wrong with my little genius.
Which is common with most
Yeah,
parents.
I mean, I think the way I interpreted it, then we moved up to another part of the school, and we had different teachers and different people, and they talked to me again when he was 4, to say, look, and I'll never forget the meeting. I was already in defense mode. Don't tell me there's anything wrong with my child.
Just like most moms do.
Yeah, it was like,
you know, my
listen,
child is
guys,
perfect.
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know what you're trying to get to here. And the principal at the time said to me, Georgina, if your child was sitting in a classroom and struggling to breathe, would you consider an inhaler? I said, well, obviously. Of course I would. And if your child couldn't see, would you consider glasses? I said, yes, obviously. They said, well, we're telling you that he's struggling to concentrate a little bit. Would you consider getting him tested? And I received it in a much better way. And I did. We did have him tested, and I went to the test with him. And I think 2 things were interesting here, and for any parents who are going through the early journey of this. 1, my child on site did not like the tester.
Oh, okay.
So he had a visceral reaction to the doctor who was doing the test. And we entered a battle of wills, because he didn't want to be assessed by this individual, and I was forcing him to do it. And so the test itself was just an exercise in oppositional defiance.
But what should parents be looking for if they're looking for schools for their child? What are the key things that they should be looking out for in deciding where their child goes?
I think it's about really understanding your own child's needs. So I've got some friends with neurodivergent children who are struggling to learn. And so then they need more assisted learning, so smaller classes. Unfortunately, bar a few, assisted learning comes in private schools, and it's exceptionally expensive, unbelievably expensive. So it's not an option for many people. I do want to just say that any parent listening whose child has to go to an assisted learning school, there is a massive SARS tax break on the school fees.
Okay.
So they need to investigate that. Children who go to assisted learning schools, you get a portion of the value of the school fee back in your SARS tax return. So you must make sure who's ever doing your return is aware of that, because that return can assist you in paying for the following year's school fees, because it is extremely expensive.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the funds for those private assisted learning schools, there are some government funded assisted learning schools. So that might be the one thing. Your child might need some more help. Okay, a smaller class, it might need some more help. It might need more time in exams. And then you have the kind of situation that I find myself in with a child who is bright, who wasn't stimulated by more traditional learning methodologies, and has had to move to a school that has slightly atypical learning methodology, still following a CAPS curriculum, but less typical learning methodology, which is stimulated for him. I can only say be guided by your own gut instinct. What does your child need? Obviously, a smaller class is preferable. You know, if you are neurodivergent, to be in a very high energy, busy class, maybe with other kids banging and crashing, if you're noise sensitive, it's tough.
Absolutely.
It's tough when you're little.
Yeah.
Even when you get older. So try and find, smaller schools, but I think each parent's got to be guided by their own child's needs. I know Riley really needs sport in a school. So for me to take him and put him in a very, very small school with no sport, I wouldn't have been doing him a favor. And he thrives on social interactions as well. So I think you've just got to be guided by your own child's needs, and then research, because it looks like they know. I didn't know Radford existed.
Yeah.
It looks like there are no options. There are options, though.
It's so nice to know at home that there are options. I mean, we also learned about how you can take advantage of the tax break that is made available to you by the South African government. What I do like is the fact that, you know, you're mentioning all these options that parents can pursue. But over and above that, I'm wondering if my child is really bright, because I'm thinking of a few students that we have in our robotics and coding classes that are extremely smart. And I'm curious whether, and they're in mainstream school, but I'm curious whether the parents could, you know, go expose their children to other activities that could really activate their mind over and above what they're getting in traditional schools.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, the programs that you run yourself would be coding and robotics would be one of the things. I mean, there are a couple of other private schools. I don't mean mainstream schools. I mean things that you can go to after school.
There we go, extracurricular activities.
That's it. So there's, I mean, Riley's been a few times to something called 𝐷𝐻𝐷 school, which is a coding and robotics school, and he's played Minecraft, learned to build and expand his horizons, and really built some quite incredible things for a first-time Minecrafter. You know, I think there are apps as well. You know, if parents and look, those things come at a price, and it's not affordable for everybody. I'm in the same boat. Okay, so he's not going to 𝐷𝐻𝐷 school every week, but there are apps that you can get hold of for your iPad or your computer that can stimulate your children, and that they can learn other things. Otherwise, certainly the advice I've received from some neuroscientists who have been engaging: exercise.
It's so nice that you talk about that, because we had Dr. 𝐴𝐷𝐷, who is the president of Kinder Kinetics at the 𝑡𝑚 University, and he talked about that, the power of movement.
Absolutely,
for children.
Yeah. I think the other thing that has come up from some of the neuroscientists that I've been engaging to try and get more information is mindfulness. So to try and get your children as quickly as possible to move out of the busy side of their brain, and I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not giving you the correct labels, but into a more executive functioning part of their brain, and that's where they'll find stillness and quiet.
Interesting, and I'm actually curious how the parents will do that. But sorry to interrupt.
So I mean, from a meditation or mindfulness perspective, I have used kids' meditations, and we do them every night. So Riley will go to sleep listening to a kids appropriate sleep meditation. So when he was much younger, there's somebody on Spotify called Mrs. Honeybee. It's free. You can subscribe, but and have access to more stories. But Mrs. Honeybee, I mean, it's a miracle I can stay awake through her. But it's just a guided story about breathing and a story related, very modern stories, but just teaching your children in the evening to connect and to be calm, particularly before sleep. But there are lots available.
I'm so happy that you're sharing these freely available resources, because some parents just don't know where to go. Especially with limited prestigious schools, right? Your son's needs were not fully met. And you are not alone. We have parents asking us at Kids Innovate Africa, how can I find the right fit for my child as far as academic learning is concerned? Can you share with us how you went about finding the right school for Riley?
Sure. So to be honest, it wasn't a journey I was actually on. I thought we were in the right school.
Okay.
I thought that this would be a good home for him. We went to his psychiatrist to get his script renewed, and the psychiatrist said at the end of his consult with Riley, Georgina, you do know your child is bored. And I kind of thought, well, bored? I mean, he goes to 6 extramurals, he's in a great school, he's got an iPad, he's stimulated. I don't understand. I mean, even me, I'm bored, but that's the mundanity of life.
Yeah.
You know? And then I kind of just brushed it off. And then I took him for a play therapy session, and the play therapist came out. She's known him for years. And she said, Georgina, do you know Riley is bored? And again, I said, oh, you're the second person to say that. What? I don't understand what I must do. She said, I think you must get him tested. And I said, but we were tested a year ago. What are we testing for? She said, no. You must test for his IQ.
Interesting.
So she said there is a school called Radford House, and it is for gifted children. I said, okay, well, we'll go along with the testing. And it was right at the end of last year. I mean, I'd already bought school clothes and books for grade 1. And he did the test. And halfway through the test, the psychometrist came out and said to me, listen, phone Radford House now. He is a gifted. And again, gifted is another label, along with, ADHD and oppositional defiance, because all of these things they're on a spectrum. So there are Stephen Hawking's, and then there are, people with above average IQ.
So that's what it means to be gifted. Because
yes, it's an above average IQ. Well, not even average. It's a superior IQ.
Okay.
And then above gifted is genius. So that would be the Stephen Hawking's.
Interesting. So this is along the lines of Elon Musk.
Yeah, well, I would suspect Elon Musk is probably in the genius space. Category. I'm not a fan, but we'll move on from that.
Yeah.
But it's he's definitely a bright child, which goes back to when he was 18 months old. I knew he was bright, but he possibly wasn't demonstrating that in a mainstream school. Yes, because he just wasn't going to be told what to do, how to do it. Anyway, moving on quickly. Radford House then said, no, because it's a high-performance school, come, and he needs to spend a week. We need to see, can he cope? So he spent a week, and before we knew it, he was accepted. I had to undo everything I'd already done for grade 1 and redo it for a new school. Big adjustment for a neurodivergent little boy who'd been at one school for 4 years with his mates and his friends, and now mommy was saying, no, we're now going to a completely different school in a completely different area. Godspeed, my child. And I think looking back, I probably didn't give enough thought to what change is like for a little kid like that.
Did you explain to him why
I did explain, and fortunately there were 2 little boys in the class who had been with him in his week of trial week, who were exceptionally kind and lovely little boys. So he arrived on day 1 at least knowing 2 other little boys.
Better.
I think I expected a lot of him, but in fairness, this little kid has really risen to the challenge. In the first parents' meeting, I was so stressed out. I just thought, oh my God, I'm going to have a burnt out 7-year-old. This sounds so high performance. But in actual fact, it's the best decision I ever made. I mean, I was definitely projecting my own school anxieties onto my child. He has thrived. It's an unbelievable school that teaches in a modular way. And so the things that you are strong at, you could be learning at grade 3 level in grade 1 because you've mastered the task already. They don't allow for large deficits. So I'm gonna not talk about the school he was at. I'm talk about when I went to school. You maybe learned something and you maybe got 60% in the exam and you went on to the next grade. But you actually had a 40% knowledge deficit.
Which is huge.
100%. And then you go to the next grade. Let's talk about maths particularly. You go to the next grade and you maybe get 62. So you're going ahead then with a 38% deficit. And it catches up with you. Whereas at this school, they will only allow for a 10% deficit. So you need to get 90% and above.
And that will make sense, because imagine going to a medical doctor who knows 60% of the work.
Well, and here there's no stigma around if you didn't. Riley didn't grasp the time module, telling the time. So it's fine. He just repeats it. It's no drama. You just do the time module. He'll do it again this year. And if he doesn't get it this year, he'll do it in grade 2. But some of the modules he's got already. He's at grade 3 level. So
at his age. I mean, he's doing grade 3 concept, but he's much younger.
But he's in grade 1. Yeah. But it's a really, really clever way of teaching, and a large number of the kids are neurodiverse. So it's just, I'm extremely happy with the school, and I'm sure there are other places. But for me, for my child, this has worked.
This is amazing.
And as I say, it wasn't through I did. That it was a journey I wasn't even on. It was just, I found the right person to give the right advice at the right time.
Yeah.
And he's ended up in the right place.
Being open.
Yeah.
Yeah, to listen.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've mentioned this earlier, but I was in awe of how the teachers that Riley had, the two lovely teachers you so beautifully reflected on how well they supported Riley during those first few years. You're very lucky. But for some parents that come on our show, and we have a particular expert, Yolanda Gani, who's a dyslexia expert, who talks about the importance of advocating for your child. So as a parent, you go to school to advocate, these are the sensory needs of my child, and this is how best you can support to make sure that his learning can advance quite well. But sometimes it might come across as presenting a conflicting opportunity between the teachers and the parents. How have you done it? How have you juggled it?
I mean, I was lucky. I think I had the right teachers, but I know of those 9 people that I know, not everybody's had the equivalent journey. And it is about advocating. And some of the things are small adjustments. For example, some of the kids really battle with the strip lighting, that white strip light that is in most classrooms. It's not optimal for learning in neurodiverse kids. And so allowing a child to wear glasses, a sunglass, it's not a sunglass, it's either got a yellow, you'll have to be tested for your own child, a yellow or a blue tint.
Yeah.
And that tint just makes learning easier for them, because strip lights are not lovely for neurodiverse children. It's not that harsh white light. And so small accommodations. Are you going to get the school to change the strip lights? Never. They're not changing it. Allowing the school to let your child wear these particular glasses. For Riley, activating his jaw in the morning on the way to school, the jaw muscles, to get them going. In the beginning, I had him chewing gum, and I spoke to the school and said, my child's going to arrive at school chewing gum. It's not out of disrespect. Trying to activate his jaw muscles.
Why would you want to activate his jaw muscles?
We want to activate the jaw. It helps with learning as well. If we can activate all the senses and the jaw muscle particularly, so it's not stiff in the morning.
Okay, interesting.
We've moved on to, there's a high chew sweet available in any shops called High Chew. And in fact, half of his class are now eating them. We have 2 of those High Chews in the car. Get that jaw moving. But again, it's about engaging the school to say, listen, this is what my child needs. Riley at one point was quite oral, so he wanted a lot of stuff, fingers in his mouth, pencil in his mouth, you name it, it was in his mouth. Buying, you can buy them on Take-A-Lot. They've got a soft Lego that kids can chew. So saying to the school, he's going to come with this around his neck. When he wants to chew something, he's going to chew on this. Obviously the chair, the little bubbly blow up thing you put on the seat so they can move.
Yeah, heavy blanket.
Yeah, he didn't like the chair thing. He didn't like the bubbles. It was too bubbly for him. There are things that you can put underneath the chair which allows their feet to move. A school like Radford, you can sit on a medicine ball, or not a medicine ball, a yoga ball.
Okay.
While learning, and they allow you to get up in the class and wander around so that you can actually stimulate it. In fact, I bought the class a rebounder. It'll move with Riley, because sometimes when they're still learning, high performance subjects, sometimes they need to move. And so I bought a rebounder with a handle. So I said, go and do 20 star jumps. Anybody can use it. Come back to your desk, carry on concentrating.
This is amazing. Very, very insightful.
But it's about being able to enroll the teacher, I think, in, and a lot of these teachers, when they've got, some class of 25, 30 kids, and your kid is the one kicking the school chair, kicking the desk, shouting out answers. It's frustrating for a teacher.
Absolutely.
So it's about enrolling them in your child's needs, I think.
Yeah, Georgina, you talked about executive functioning, how you're trying to use meditation to get your son into the habit of refocusing, his executive thinking. Talk to us about that scientific.
Well, something new that I've been exploring, and I was extremely lucky to meet Dr. Vivian Ming recently, who is a globally renowned neuroscientist. And I made contact with her, and she shared some thoughts with me. She too is ADHD. I hope she doesn't mind me saying. And she was giving me some thoughts around really what she sees. And excuse me, I'm going to have to read it because I'm not a neuroscientist.
Absolutely, read it. We want to hear what the facts are.
In her hypothesis, the ADHD brain is the functional connectivity of the default mode, which is the internal world, and the salience mode, which is the external world. The networks are actually too similar. So this means the brain shifts between mind wandering and reacting to new stimulus with almost no friction.
Sorry, that sounds a little PhD.
Yeah, so look, a thought pops up in your brain, you've got a thought, but then suddenly a bird flies past a window, which is the external world, which is the salience world. So then you've got the thought and then a bird flies past. And then you come back to the thought and then somebody bangs a desk in your classroom and you're onto that. So there's no friction, whereas non-neurodivergent people have more of a friction and can tune out moving between those two parts of brain. So she's saying that the real challenge is that it's difficult to disengage from this loop between these two parts of the brain.
For the ADHD.
For an ADHD person, and to fully activate executive control network. So it's quite difficult, but when they are particularly interested or engaged in a subject, they activate that executive control network. And that's why we see hyper-focus in our kids with ADHD. I know my child can spend 2 hours playing Minecraft without making a peep, without moving a muscle. Because he's interested, 100%. He's not engaged in any external stimuli, particularly me. Riley, come, it's time to eat dinner. Sure, I'm tuned out. Not that I'm tuned out, he's deeply in that particular state. So she's saying it's not a story of a damaged brain. It's a story of a brain that has been wired for a different environment. One where constant vigilance, a hyperactive salience network, was a survival skill. And it's wonderful news that the brain is plastic and we can work effortfully to strengthen the connections we want. So there is hope about being able to move into that executive functioning.
And that sounds so powerful because I'm literally in my mind as you're speaking, I'm thinking, astronomers. I'm just thinking in terms of the professions that would really benefit from that ability to hyper-focus on something.
You've mentioned Elon Musk earlier.
Indeed.
His ability to hyper-focus is what's led him to this unbelievable success in terms of electric cars and trips to Mars, etc., etc. There are lots of extremely successful business people who will then tell you that they have ADHD, and what they did is find something they were really interested in. They hyper-focused, and it's from that they grew their product.
It's a superpower.
Yeah, undoubtedly it's a superpower. Harnessed correctly, fed correctly, nurtured correctly. Unbelievable superpower.
Sure. We are about to transition now to something that links so beautifully to this. You've given a few examples on intelligence. It's such a complex thing, right? Intelligence. But generally, people have been for many years, and I think even until now, looking at intelligence through a traditional lens
100%.
as cognitive intelligence or academic intelligence. Can you unpack for us why it's important to understand this topic of intelligence?
And you've just said that intelligence is beyond cognitive, what we would traditionally have called IQ. So obviously EQ is going to play a huge part, particularly as we move into this AI world, when that's the one thing that computer's not going to have is EQ. Real, authentic empathy. A computer can't have that and give you the words, not authentic though. And so EQ, developing EQ in our children and having EQ with them and for them is exceptionally important. And then I'm going to bring in some SQ, some spiritual intelligence, to try and get them to understand and to be able to connect to a broader consciousness in the world, that they're not alone. Being able to turn the power of their brain on. I'm sure you've had the same experience where you don't know the answer to something. You're standing in the shower. So that's obviously my thinking place.
Yeah.
It's not a thought process, but suddenly you know the answer. You don't know how you got there, but you know, oh, I know what I'll do. You don't know how you suddenly know that. You just know. And that is about connecting to a collective consciousness. And I think being able to teach our children meditation, irrespective of religion. It's outside of that. It's not a religion. It's just about harnessing their total power, I think is really important. And particularly, many autistic children have unbelievable abilities and sense things that you and I can't sense. And as a parent, listening to them, and we might not be able to understand, but just listen.
I like that you touched on EQ and IQ, and for some of our neurodivergent parents raising neurodivergent children would come and say, my child is exceptional at drawing, right, at art. That's another form of intelligence, right? And
absolutely,
intelligence goes beyond just academic.
100%.
And
coding and
building
robotics,
robots,
100%,
mechanical engineering.
100%.
And I'm curious now, Georgina, as to what it actually could mean for parents, for teachers and people managers to understand that intelligence is multidimensional. What could it mean?
So, I think it's really tough. I mean, the South African school system has not kept pace with the educational needs, I think, of our children for the world that we are living in. I mean, only now this year, I think we spoke about it previously, is robotics and coding has been introduced into schools. So we're behind. There's no doubt about it. No, 100%. And we still we build curricula around expecting little boys to sit still in a classroom for 7 hours, neurodivergent or not, and pay attention and listen and stop being disruptive, Johnny. Okay, it's ridiculous. Kids are not built that way anymore. The world isn't built that way. So, the educational system was built for a time when we had suddenly discovered machines, for the first time. So there needs to be some evolution there. There are some places that are evolving the way and the style of learning, not many schools, and certainly not traditional government schools. So I think it's difficult because your child still has to go through the school system. There's no point. We can't rebel against it. If we want our child, unfortunately, traditional thinking prevails. You need a matric. Hopefully, by the time these youngsters have come through matric, we are fully immersed in skills-based hiring, and we are not looking for a degree. Because what is that saying? We want to know what skills you have. Emotional intelligence is incredibly important, but these little kids sometimes don't demonstrate the emotional intelligence because, particularly if they're undiagnosed, neurodivergent, they can be disruptive, and then they get labeled. Just a disruptive, a naughty boy. Not naughty. Not naughty. You just haven't found a way in yet, teacher. And I don't blame teachers. Some, you got 25 kids in a class.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Sometimes 30. And let's be honest, we know in some of our schools, 50, and they're sharing a desk. So now you must look out for the one who needs something different. And that's where I think as parents, we need to engage the teacher. We need to enroll them in our vision about why our child might need something a little bit different. But actually, if they are in a traditional school system, unfortunately, some of the difference is going to fall to us in the evenings. And listen, as a single mom, I also work a full-time job. I'm the one who's providing everything in the family. Now I must come home, cook dinner, feed my child, and then still have the strength and the wherewithal to provide something more for him in the evening. I get how hard that is.
It's tough.
It's extremely tough.
So it will make a huge difference if we have some adjustments in the education policy, right?
I mean, I think I still I don't want death threats, so I don't want to discuss the ins and outs of the government education system. It is what it is, and we can only, as parents, we try and do our best. And unfortunately, there are some really good government schools and some not so good government schools, and we know that. We do the best as we can to send our child to the best school, but it
needs to change.
100%.
It needs to change, because if you're looking at careers of the future, and you're looking at what other countries are doing as far as inclusive access to education is concerned, you won't have the Elon Musk. I'm using this example, but we've used this for many years. But you won't have the talent like that of Elon Musk or Richard Branson if you don't change your education policy and look at how these learners are being supported.
And still, we still reward rote learning. Go home and learn all of this about history and come back and regurgitate. In some spaces, not all schools are like that, but in some spaces, and that's just, why would we rote learn something in a world with AI? And we shouldn't be telling our kids, oh no, you're not allowed to use AI, it's cheating. The way we examine them should change so that they are allowed to use AI, but the way they question AI, the way they come up with the research using AI, why not? Why are we going to pretend, no, you can't use AI at school? It's ridiculous.
And I like that people like Leora have come up with solutions.
Yes.
That still kind of support problem-solving thinking skills, critical thinking with the learners, but while they're also being exposed to AI, because that's kind of where we are going. And you need solutions like that be made available in the schooling system.
Absolutely. Half the schools don't have computers. So let's not even, now we're suggesting that we should allow learners to access AI to stimulate, and it's not about, I know originally people were talking about it's cheating. Okay, and I'm going to ask an LLM for an answer, but it's because we're still asking the question in a traditional way.
That's right.
Okay, we need to change the way we ask the questions to test the way our children can apply their thinking, because what you ask a ChatGPT and what your answer and my answer will be different, because we will phrase our questions differently.
Absolutely.
And it's what we do with the information that comes out.
I'm looking forward to hopefully pointing to some of this. We're meeting officials in the education department and looking forward to hearing what is it
Good luck.
they're doing in this place. I love how you talked about, the complexity of intelligence, and we've touched on a few points there. And now I'm wondering what parents could do in identifying and recognizing the strengths in their children who are neurodivergent.
Again, I think it's difficult. I would suspect, unless you manage to be in a school with the right teacher who can call you in and have a conversation to say, look, your little one is particularly good at this or particularly good at that. Some of that's going to have to come from your observation. There are external sources, psychometrists and people and people who will assess your children to tell you this is what they're good at. My view always is, and I've always said that even in the work environment, people who you come and say to a colleague, we've decided to give you a coach. Everybody's always like, oh, what's wrong with me? And my view of that always was, do you think 𝐴𝐷𝐻𝐷's mother said to him, you know what, Reiki, you're a very good swimmer, my boy, well done, but actually your tennis is kind of rubbish, so we're gonna send you off for tennis lessons. She said, you can be world class, my son, and we are going to give you a coach to make you world class at this. And I think that with our children, we obviously don't want them failing subjects, but I think we should find what they're really good at and then support them to be world class at that particular thing. So if it's art, let's support them with the art to be world class. If it's maths, if it's science, and that will require obviously some additional support outside of school.
And if it's in a work environment, provide a coach.
100%. But it's again going back to originally how it was framed to me about Riley needing to be assessed for ADHD. We have to frame it in a way that it's seen as a gift and positivity. So I'm not giving you a coach because, oh, shame, you're really not doing well, and actually this is part of a performance management plan. It's because we see something in you And we can harness that and make you world class at that. And it's about understanding what is that particular thing, and how do I make you world class at it. I mean, don't send me on a finance for non-financial managers because you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
Give me what I'm really good at and enhance it.
And that's how you get the best out of your teams. And you're hearing it from a global talent expert. So we're going to move on, Georgina, looking at how you've led globally, but also how you've parented actively. And I'm curious with the parent that's listening right now, a mom that's listening right now, wondering, how does Georgina do it? How do you manage being so present and the high energy that you have? How do you manage that with your priorities?
So, I mean, I think one of the things is it is difficult being a single mom, but part of that also means, excuse me, I know there's no other option.
Yeah.
So I am Riley's mom, and I have to step up. So it's also been a mindset decision for me. Part of it does mean I have to take time for myself. I don't take a lot, but every single Sunday morning between 7 and 8 in the morning, I play paddle. Come rain, snow, sleet, that's my time, and he knows that. And obviously, as he's got older, it's easier to navigate that because a very stressed out, burnt out mom cannot be there for him.
Absolutely.
So, but I think also it's going to sound so trite this really, but it is about finding the joy in your children. You know, if you see these little things that they're so good at and finding the joy, and one of the other little things I do with him in the evening, which I learned on Instagram, is I spend time asking him questions about the world. And I'm going to tell you about some of those questions. I screenshotted one of the ones that I've used with him. So not generic, how was your day?
Which is what most of us usually do.
We get in the car, we're not really listening, but I'm asking you, how was your day? Okay, here we are. What is it that you're scared of? Questions like that. What are you good at? Get him to articulate to me what he thinks he's good at. If you could go anywhere in the world on holiday, where would you want to go? So really forcing him to think about, rather than generic answer. How are you? Fine. How was school? Fine. Did you learn anything different today? No. Otherwise, that's the standard answers. Really probing a little deeper. If you could be a superhero, which one would you be? What superpower would you wish you had? And then get him to tell you why. Why do you want that as your superpower? And you get some really insightful answers.
This is amazing. Wow. I'm like thinking, when I get home, this is what I need to start doing. It's so touching to hear you say, I'm his mom. Who else can do it? I have to do it. And it's often easier said than done for parents that are actually walking the journey. But also I'm curious for the parents that's listening as to what motivates you, what keeps you going. I mean, I had the honor of listening to Miss Karina Bruvet, the open water swimmer, who I actually asked her, what keeps you motivated? Because, I'm in social entrepreneurship and it can be really tough.
Yes.
Obviously, it doesn't compare with raising a child who's neurodivergent. But I asked her, what keeps you motivated? And she said, it's discipline. I've got days when I don't want to wake up and go do a 6-kilometer swimming lap, but I know I have to do it, right? So what is it that keeps you motivated?
I mean, I absolutely adore my child. I really absolutely love him to death. So, but there are days when, I found myself the other day just sort of snapping, and not snapping per se, but he tried to fiddle with the ways in the car, and I snapped at him, and then he fiddled with the radio, and I snapped at him, and then I caught myself and had to say, sure, I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm being like this. Please forgive me. I've got no reason to be snapping. I'm going to take a big breath and stop. So it's not perfect. It's not a perfect journey ever, but I absolutely, he is my biggest gift, my greatest blessing. I love him. He has me only, and that's what keeps me going. I do think listening to Karina speak, I do think discipline is a wiring, though. She and I think that from an epigenetic factor early on, her parents probably taught her, no, you can't give up on this. You started doing this, you're not allowed to give up. And I've done it with Riley. He played rugby, and then halfway through the rugby season, he said, I don't want to play this anymore. And I said, that's fine, but you're going to finish the season. You don't walk out on your team. So those kind of lessons, I think help. But I mean, let's be honest. Parenting is, it's hard. There's no manual. Nobody tells you in advance. They always tell you, oh, it's such a blessing. It's not always a blessing.
Especially balancing it with your professional
It's
demands,
not always a blessing.
It's not.
Brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. I mean, I wonder how many times I say that in a day. Come, get in the bath, get in the bath, get in the bath, get in the bath, until I say, listen, I'm going to lose it. Get in the bath.
I know what that means. I've got teenagers, and until now, I'm still having to tell my teenagers, make your bed.
So it's not always easy, but I think if you can find a place to do it out of love and not out of, without the fear, then, it some days makes it a bit easier. But it's I'm not saying it's just a perfect journey. It's not.
Absolutely. Thanks for being so authentic, because as a parent at home, sometimes it may feel like you're doing it all wrong. But as you've heard from Georgina, she catches herself, and that level of self-awareness help you to engage with your child in such a way that they feel respected. I had to learn that. So I truly believe I was given the child I was meant to have to learn the lessons I was meant to learn. And I didn't come to that overnight either. I was given an oppositional, defiant child. So I had to learn. I cannot push or bulldoze him into doing anything. I've had to learn the art of soft negotiation, tact. I can't just bulldoze my way. We spoke about it earlier. I am quite direct. He couldn't care less. So I truly believe that I'm learning lessons from him. I'm hoping as much as he is going to learn from me, hopefully. So powerful. Georgina, holidays are around the corner, right? And for many neurodivergent families, it can be a very overwhelming time, especially for sensory overload. And I'm curious, what have been successful for you and your son?
I think it's, again, I'm going to refer to listening and observing your child. So Riley does have a late afternoon slump, or in fact not slump, more high energy, doesn't listen as well as the long-lasting medication wears off. So I've got to be very aware, ideally not to plan an early dinner, because especially out with other people, Riley's coming off his meds, then he can be quite wild. Since we took him off that medication I referred to earlier, we have found a wonderful gummy with L-theanine in it, and it really helps soften the come down. It's called a rebound when you come off your meds, particularly in the early days. It's less so now because he's very well adjusted to the medication. But in the first 18 months of taking it, it was quite a sharp come down. And come down would be at the time Mom was arriving home from work, stressed out after her day, and now I've got a wild child on my hands. So definitely giving him those gummies at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon just softens the landing. But holidays can be tough, but I think it's about understanding what your child can cope with. Lots of loud sounds. Riley doesn't do well with loud sounds, music. If we do socialize and we go to concerts, or we've been to see 𝐷𝐚𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐷 Youth Choir many times, Riley has to take noise cancelling headphones. He can hear the choir through it, but it's not as intense. And so I know he would not be able to cope without that. So it's just learning from you, letting your own child tell you. Riley hates thunder and lightning. Much as it keep telling him, don't be scared, don't be scared. It's a stupid thing to say to him. He is scared. So I need to manage it, again, with noise cancelling headphones, make a little tent for him in his bedroom. I need to manage it rather than than, you know, trying to change his response to it.
And I'm curious how you explain this to families. I mean, in the South African context, holidays, everybody, all the relatives are there.
100%.
It can get really loud because people are very
and people
jolly.
are judging you because why is your child afraid of lightning? Why is he being pathetic?
There we go.
So I think that's when my mama bear comes out. Okay.
Mama bear.
Yeah, don't listen, guys. I'm the parent. So back off. Thank you very much. I'll handle it.
We did tell you she's direct.
Yeah, so. Back off, I'll handle it.
Yeah.
And, you know, if Riley is being a little bit of a monster, it's not about saying Riley's right. It's allowing me as the parent to handle it in a way that is non-threatening to him and to de-escalate. You want to de-escalate a situation. For Riley, if he's overstimulated, sitting him on my lap, holding him tight, rubbing his back. If he's very overstimulated, lying on his stomach, putting pressure up and down his body, I can bring him back into the present within a minute if he's having a meltdown. And little kids do have meltdowns, particularly around holidays where there's potentially a lot of sugar. Maybe not eating at the same times that we, you know, for Riley as a neurodivergent child, routine is key. You need to know what to expect, how it's going to work. What time does he eat? What time does he bath? What time does he go to bed? So we're quite strict with routine, and we always have been. In fact, I've been very, very vigilant around that because it gives them a sense of security.
Absolutely.
And being able to communicate those routines to family. So if your child is going away to spend time with family members, maybe in another province, enroll them before they go into the routine. They need this at this time in this way, and please respect that that's what my child needs. Happy child, happy holiday.
Absolutely.
Unhappy child, not such a happy holiday.
Such amazing gems of wisdom that you.
Lots of whiskey, if not happy child.
Lots of whiskey. I love how you're talking about, you know, some of the things you have to do. Rubbing on his back to calm him down.
Sensory pressure.
Absolutely.
A lot of people brush. Riley's not into brushing at all. He didn't enjoy the feeling of the brushing on his body. And you know, relatives can sometimes look at you and think, what on earth are you doing? You know, but people need to understand that you're doing what's best for your own child, to be at his best in these environments. I remember one of the first holidays we went on once Riley had been diagnosed, was into 𝐷𝐚𝐢𝐬𝐻𝐷 Game Reserve with friends. And I was so anxious because I knew the game drive started at 4:30 and Riley's pill, in the afternoon. And Riley's pill had worn off by 4. And I just thought, can you imagine us on a game drive? Knowing my child, he'll be running over to pet the lion. I was so anxious about it. And I spoke to his doctor at the time and said, how do I navigate this? We're away with other people. I want to expose him to this opportunity. But I know what my child's going to be like when he comes off that pill in the afternoon. And it's game drive time. And they gave me some coping skills, and it was absolutely perfect.
That's amazing.
And I chatted to the guide, the game driver, and everyone to say, listen, guys, can you just cut him a little bit of slack? And it was absolutely perfect.
This is amazing listening to Georgina, because these are practical strategies that you can apply at home quite easily. They don't cost much. And especially as we are coming closer to the festive season, you can try some of these strategies and see if they work or not. I think, Georgina, you kind of covered this a little bit as to how parents can kind of bring a balance between participation in family or friends activities and making sure that you're protecting your child's sensory needs. You kind of touched on it a little bit.
I mean, I think it's difficult in big families and in families where tradition dictates that, you know, the child behaves in a certain way, sits at the table, knife and fork, whatever it is, or you know, there might be certain cultural aspects.
Kids are playing, go dance in the loud music. Go dance.
Go and do this, or children are seen and not heard, or go. So I think it's difficult. I think as a parent of a neurodiverse child, it's about being your child's advocate. You have to stand up, and you know, everybody in the family doesn't have to agree with it, but at the end of the day, it's your child. This is your chance to parent, and enrolling them, sitting them down, trying to make them understand your child has slightly different needs, And please could they be respectful of those needs, because ultimately your child only has you to advocate for them.
What is, when you're looking back at your journey with Riley, what is the most important lesson that you've learned about raising a gifted child?
Sure. I mean, I don't even kind of label Riley as a gifted child. I know he's a smarty pants. I'm giving him a little bit more in terms of the education. But for me, my most important lesson was to listen to my child. And we had an instance in his early schooling where I didn't listen to my child. I listened to the teacher. And the teacher was being fed information from other sources. And I didn't listen to Riley, and I didn't back him.
Yeah.
And I reached the point where finally I listened to what was actually going on, and I backed him, and I swore to him on that day. I looked my child, my 3-year-old, in the eye, and I said, I promise that will never happen again. Mommy will only ever listen to you, and I will take what you tell me as truth. And I think that was probably one of the most important lessons, because I was on this journey alone, and I didn't really, I listened to people who were in positions of power and who were trusted. And naturally, I'm a very trusting person. I will trust you until you prove otherwise. So I'm not one of those distrusting people. And I had people telling me one thing and my child telling me something else. And only I reached a point where I realized, hang on a second, my child's actually right. Yeah. And I felt dreadful for not believing him or listening to him. And that's probably the most important lesson was listen to your child. He will tell you in many ways, so maybe not verbally, in his behavior, in his quiet moments with you. He will tell you what's going on. Listen. Hard lesson to learn, let me tell you. Hard lesson, because it comes with guilt.
Yeah.
As a mother, you feel guilty. You didn't step up, but it's been a lasting lesson for me.
What is one thing you want the parent at home listening right now, the teacher, the caretaker, or even a talent manager or people manager in the workplace, to take away from this conversation?
I think, first of all, neurodiversity it's not a disorder. It's not something wrong. It is an absolute superpower if supported and harnessed correctly. Some of the greatest minds of our time, when you go and investigate, have all been neurodivergent. Okay, so number one, there's no reason why your child can't be one of the greatest minds of our time. I believe mine's going to be. So approach it with that in mind. We are incredibly blessed to have been gifted with these children with these superpowers, and it's incumbent upon us as teachers and parents, as caregivers, as supporters, to really tap into those superpowers for them. It is scary for these little kids. It's hard for parents too. I mean, I'm making the journey sound easy. It has not been easy. There's been many a night where I've really sat up and fretted about what Bridie's future and world look like. And right now, I know we're in the right place. And you know what? In 3 years' time, we might not be. We know this journey undulates. A good space, a not so good space, a good space, a not so good space, and you've just got to go with it. To parents, there is support out there. Look for it. It's available. Ask, look on the internet, look on Instagram, look on Facebook, look on Google, ask AI. There is support, and knowledge is power.
Have it. Thank you for spending time with us. I hope you feel inspired, informed, and empowered that neurodivergent and gifted learners can thrive in school, in life, and ultimately in the workplace. Parents, teachers, and mentors, support and resources exist, and your advocacy matters. Managers and recruiters, by recognizing diverse intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving potential, you can build stronger, more inclusive teams. Here on Beyond the Box, we explore ideas and opportunities that go beyond conventional limits, beyond asking questions, seeking support, and championing every learner and every employee's chance to succeed. Thank you so much, Georgina, for spending this time with us, unpacking such wealth of knowledge and expertise to empower parents, caretakers, teachers, and even managers out there. So we value you.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much.